What's up? I guess if I flip my camera the right way, y'all could see me. How are you? We're gonna give a couple seconds for some guests and, of course, our guest speaker today to jump in. All right, let's make this happen. Job search tips and how to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row to get employed in this very valuable tech job hunting season. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Finis, the boss. Hello, my friend. Thank you for jumping in. Excited for the support. Henri, tell us a little bit about what your expertise is. And I'm going to be asking you for tips over the next hour to share with myself and our audience here.
Cool. For those that don't know, I have a YouTube channel, Techno Chatter. I think I'm gonna transition that to my business. But if we back that up, my expertise is been in the infosec field for around a year. So I've been basically pretty much the systems.
You're breaking
Also
up
have
a
a
little bit.
oh man,
Let's
it's
see if
saying
we
my
can get a
my
better
signal
signal
good.
on
I
you.
wonder.
I heard you say that you have been in tech for a while. Go from there.
Okay, yeah, I was saying I've been in tech around what 6, 7 years now.
Awesome.
And I have my
What
bachelor's and I have my master's and a couple of certs and studying for another at the moment right now, actually.
what was your first certification?
Tech Plus.
All right. And which one are you working on now?
I'm working on AWS certified cloud practitioner, actually.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So what
Yeah, I
got you
didn't.
into technology in the first place? Like what got you interested? How'd you get your foot in the door?
Um, honestly, I think it kind of kid. I think I kind of got into it from like I came up in the age of like video games. Everything was changing, so it was pretty cool. And I was always kind of intrigued by like computers and stuff like that. And actually made the decision once I got into college.
Okay.
That'd be something I like to do.
Love it. So I know I connected with you on LinkedIn, which is one of my favorite platforms, but specifically about getting all my lovely little documentation in order, job searching, searching for consulting opportunities, and saw some of your amazing videos that you had shared about what the job search looked like. And that's really what I want to focus on today. You have some amazing job search tips, and you have consulted with individuals and groups on how to just make sure they have a strong representation when it comes to marketing themselves. What is your top tip or the thing that you come across most often that people really need to improve on?
Um, I think it actually would be selling themselves. Because I see a lot of people, talking about, well, I had this interview, I did this, I did that, and I was like, well, the last part is probably literally selling yourself because just like there's about 1,000 other people that's trying to get the same position that we're trying to get. So it has to be something that teeters the scales for us to get one of those positions.
Absolutely. So I would ask if so sometimes you don't ever want to say this directly to a person. What's the raw, honest piece of advice that you feel like all of us need to hear? Like you wouldn't want to say it to somebody directly, but you just need the community to hear this. What's that one piece of advice that you would just give to all of us to get our foot in the door and have a successful job search experience?
Um, it depends, man, because my theory is a little different, especially what path someone's trying to take. I normally try to
Okay.
go by the get in where you fit in type of mindset. Kind of that's what I did because I figured once I got in at least somewhere, then I can map out where I want to go. Because if I don't know where I want to go, then I
Yes.
can't get there. Because you have a lot of people
Yeah,
now that are saying,
everybody's
"Oh, I
pathway
want to
is really
do
unique.
IT, I want to do cybersecurity." Okay, but I'm sorry, what was that?
I said everybody's pathway is very unique to them. So being able to give advice sometimes depends on where people are at and where they're headed.
Yeah, definitely. Um, like they'll say broad things like I want to be in IT or I want to do cybersecurity. I'll say, okay, well, those are very big umbrella terms. Do you know exactly what you want to do in those fields, or you just saw somebody that, and then once they say no, I'll say, uh, see, I saw, I don't want to butcher her name right now, but Katia posted I think it's the NIST list
Hmm.
career pathway thing,
Yep.
cybersecurity, and I've actually used that as well for people to say, well, check this out and see what interests you in this. And I've used some of the stuff from CompTIA site where they have like their little pathway as well. Like if someone just doesn't have any experience whatsoever, and then it'll start like with A plus or Net plus, Tech plus, and then tell them these different routes they can go. Ooh, sorry about that.
Absolutely. No, CompTIA has a great roadmap, and the DoD or NIST and NSA, they're all putting out information to help guide people in their career search. A lot of that stuff is cyber oriented. CompTIA is definitely neutral across the board with different pathways that people can take. For those of you who haven't seen the roadmap, if you go to imit.com /CompTIA, or you just click on the CompTIA link, if you go to the bottom of the page, you can actually see that whole roadmap. And they're going to break it down for you for different career paths, what certifications are appropriate for what part of your career. So beginner certifications, novice, and expert, and have all different career paths. And it's great to be able to look at maybe combining some of those. So if you want to be a project manager in the cloud space, it tells you what certifications are relevant. If you want to be a cloud security person, it's going to tell you what certifications are relevant. So you've got to know what your goals are. And you have to be flexible because tech is moving faster than any of us individually. So your career might end up in a different place than you intended, but at least you'll know your starting place.
I mean, to keep it simple, I would just ask somebody, say, well, when you don't know where you're going, like you want to go to a new restaurant or something like that, what do? You put in Google where you want to show you. Pretty much the same philosophy when it comes to a job search.
Absolutely. So how do you feel about LinkedIn and resume? Should they match or should you have a little bit of a difference between those two?
I say a little bit of both. I
Okay.
think I think since 2 years ago, my similar resume that I would apply with has also been on LinkedIn because also a lot of those buzzwords get recruiters contacting you like every. So I feel like they should mimic each other in a sense because sometimes it could save a lot of time back and forth between you and recruiters if they kind of just went to your page. Oh, I see his resume. I know his experience. I see his recommendations. Let's reach out to him and see, what do they have going at the job.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, when it comes to somebody who is at an entry level point, so they've had some education, they've maybe gone through a boot camp or a course, and they're looking to get their very first tech job. Give some advice to that type of person or client.
Yeah, kind of working on a situation like that now. I tell them probably to, like we said earlier, to research, see exactly what you want to do first. I don't want to just always tell somebody, hey, go do a health. That's not the route you always have to take. That's the route I took because I need the job. But
That's fair.
with in 2020, it's so different now because you can make your own home lab. You can network more. You could up stuff and do like free jobs and a bunch of things you can do to set yourself apart on your resume or whenever it comes to the interview that can help you even though you don't have, typical paid experience. So I would probably tell them, let's first things first, let's research where you want to go. And then let's also, I forgot to leave this
Mhm.
up, try to find someone that's in that field you want to get into and as well. Because they know different things.
How would you find somebody in the field? Give your, like, if I want to find somebody who's in a position, like my goal position, where would I look for them?
I personally use LinkedIn. Um, it's easier to do on the PC because you could literally get really very granular with your search. Just go to you can do, I think it's people, and then you can filter for position, and you can send them a simple script basically saying, hey, I'm interested in doing this career path one day. Would you please connect with me or something simple like that? Nothing overbearing where you just saying, I want to do this. How much money you make, and like a whole bunch of stuff that someone's not going to respond to.
That's fair. So what about for somebody who has about 3 to 5 years of experience? What advice would you give them if they've been recently laid off, their contract ended, whether it was COVID related or not, and they're looking to find a new position? What are some tips that you can share with people who are that early to mid-career job searcher?
Okay, I heard the last part. I know they got 3 to 5 years experience, and I think you said they are trying to go to a different position.
Hmm?
Is that what you said?
Yeah, so if they either recently lost their job or they're looking for a new position with about 3 to 5 years of experience in their specific segment.
Um,
Ah,
there's too much going on. I'm trying to see if this makes the signal better. That's why I've kind
oh,
of.
no worries. Yeah, there's a little bit of lag, so we'll have technical difficulties, right? That's what we call job security over here. But so if you can hear me, so I was looking at we talked about entry level
Mhm.
and how to just reach out, get some connections with people on LinkedIn. But for somebody who has been in the industry for a couple of years, and let's say either they were recently laid off or they're looking for their next position, so they're looking to take the next step up, what is some advice that you can share with them as far as what should be on your resume and how to go about that job search?
Yeah, so I went through this 2 years ago. Literally, what you probably want to do is get maybe look at four, maybe I'll say probably 3 to 5. I'm gonna say 3 to 5, 3 to 5 jobs that you're particularly going to be interested in, and try to
Okay.
see what terms that you keep on seeing that reoccurring. Maybe some that you know that they're going to ask you when you start interviewing for these roles. If you may not be proficient in these, and so you can learn about them, and you can put them on your resume. You can have them on LinkedIn. For example, right now, I've never been a Splunk engineer, but I've gotten recruiters to reach out to me about, hey, we got a engineering position because I have Splunk on my profile. Um, so I would say first things first, figure out what's actually different in the market and how do you stack up into the skills that's in the market. Because LinkedIn Premium does. If I'm not mistaken, when you apply to positions, LinkedIn Premium will show you how the app.
I do love that feature. They will be pretty transparent with you in regards to what you have featured on your profile and comparing it against other applicants. And they are looking at that in the perspective of what a recruiter has identified as being important. So a recruiter has the opportunity to set their priorities, so their skill sets, their keywords, how many years of experience, and LinkedIn is going to use an algorithm to compare you and other applicants against what a recruiter has said that they're looking for. So you really are going to know where you stand, which I think is bittersweet, right? You never want to let that dissuade you from applying. So you might not be what you feel is the perfect applicant, but that's not on you, right? You got to let the recruiter take care of that. You might be a rock star in their eyes. So don't ever let that kill your confidence, but just know where you stand and how you're competing with the actual market. These are real people out there trying to get the same positions that you are. And take a look at where you are and where you can improve, and how well you fit with any position that you're going after.
Definitely. And I made a video, I think, last week about like not being scared to apply to a job that you don't feel qualified for and to basically let them tell you no because a lot of times whoever made the job description, that's not the person you'll be working with day to day. Like that's something that came from HR, something they read. They copied and pasted and they put it in a job description because they saw these buzzwords. Like, ooh, this says you need this guy that knows this, and this. And most of the time it's a unicorn. If somebody really knew all that, then they deserve to get paid like $200,000. So don't be scared by that.
Very true. I agree with you 100%. What you see in a job description is 180 billion% of what that company wants. But what they're willing to take is somebody who's open-minded, willing to learn, and a good foundational fit. And a lot of times what's really difficult is you have to make sure that you align with the culture. most companies that I talk to, they'll ask me, hey, do you have any students that fit this type of description? And they'll rattle off all kinds of tech keywords. We want them to be A plus certified. We want to make sure that they're good with software. They're going to be working with other users. Da, 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 da. And then we have this offline conversation. And they're like, we really want somebody who is comfortable talking to people in person. And there's all these soft skills. And like they can't put that in the job description. What are they going to say? You can't be an introvert, right? They don't know how
Right.
to describe
And
that.
yeah, and I was going to add that because I've been doing, like I said, helping people with resumes and also doing my own courses with this. I was going to throw in for people who either have, really it's more so for people who have summaries on their resume. Some people don't have enough experience to have summaries, to have objectives. But what you can do is for different jobs you apply to, check out that company's like mission statement, and you can
Mm-hmm.
align a little bit of your summary to what that mission statement states. So they say, oh, okay, not only did you pretty much help yourself stand out, but you also paid attention to detail, and that's going to get you noticed. They're going to probably bring it up too when they interview you. They say, well, we're seeing your summary, whatever their mission statement says. So definitely try that method out, and that'll also help you to see what type of person that company is looking for. That way you can see if it aligns with your beliefs as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, culture is huge, and it's hard to pinpoint because there's corporate culture, there's organization culture, there's team culture. Obviously, with smaller companies, those can be all one and the same. But when you are looking at larger companies, especially that have multiple locations, every location is going to have its own culture, not just the
Yep.
team, but the actual city itself. So if you're from California and you're trying to work with a team from Kentucky or Chicago or Florida, they are might not be on the same page as you with some things that you just assume to be normal and vice versa. So make sure that you're ready to align with what that culture looks like, and be ready to work with new people and new teams and new thought processes, especially now that we're in a global workplace. You've got to be aware, you've got to be willing, because you're not competing with jobs with the same people across the street and across the city. You're competing with jobs with people across every city. So
Yeah, definitely. Um,
very cool. So we do have a question that just came in. How important is programming in the infosec fields? Do you want to touch on that?
yeah, I mean, honestly, I say it depends on the company and position because
Mm-hmm.
I see some jobs that say, oh, the security analyst needs to know how to program and this and that. But sometimes, like, one of the questions I like to ask when I do interview is like, what's my typical day to day? A lot of times you're
Mm-hmm.
not sitting around programming all day. They might just want you to be able to interpret Python or C or I mean C sharp or whatever. And you can always learn that while you're at the job. The more important things that you'll probably need is to understand the job and what your role is, and probably if you have to deal with, like, if you're supporting, making sure you have a good relationship with the client. But I
Mm-hmm.
know I went off on a tangent, but I say it's important, but only on the road. Like if you were like a security engineer, maybe a pen tester.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of some other roles, but more roles that you might have to do more scripting based. That probably be more important than something that's like more analyst focused.
Absolutely. So a little bit I'm going to add to that is, as an instructor, what I have noticed is it's becoming more and more common for them to expect us as instructors to be able to deliver introduction to Python. That seems to be the new thing that they want to add. There's always something you want to add. A couple years ago, we had to start learning a whole bunch about cloud to deliver during security training because it's relevant. Cloud's new, not horribly new, but as far as releasing to the public, and it's becoming more and more of an enterprise model to depend on cloud. So that was the big push over the last 3 years. Now, they do expect you to at least touch on Python. You do not have to be a developer. They do not expect you to be able to code your own programs or make apps or whatever you do with Python, which you can do a lot with it. But they do expect you to be able to look at a log or a line of script and know, are you getting attacked or not? Is it safe? Is it not safe? If you can't necessarily read it, do you know what programs to put it through to be able to interpret some of that? Or do you have the rapport set up with your team? And that's where I talk about the culture part. Do you have a team to depend on that you can ask, hey, you're really good at this. Python's your specialty. can you come take a look and tell me what's going on here? But you need to at least know enough to know when to ask those questions, because you're not going to have somebody reviewing code 24/7, or that's their whole job, right? So you've got to have enough confidence and exposure to it where you can come to the table and say, this looks suspect. I need somebody with more expertise to come look at this. So that's been my experience over the last about year in regards to teaching security classes, is more and more that expectation is to touch on Python.
Yeah, and
That's a great question.
it is. And I also add, in grad school, I took a Python course. Also, Python is one of like the easiest, more simple languages. Uh, and it might be probably compared to like if you want to learn Spanish, like it's one like how Spanish is like one of the easier second languages to pick up. Like that's Python. Um, if you want to learn Python, a book that was recommended to me that I think I gave to my little brother, but Python for Kids is a very simple book. It's meant to, it's meant to, for kids. Anybody could pick it up, and it'll just keep you like the basics of understanding syntax and everything in Python. And if you get past that, then they have other books, but I would suggest that. Therefore, you would be
Okay.
able to understand just the simplicities of Python. And you were also right when you brought up about them wanting you to know how to at least interpret programming for to know if you're attacked or not, because you see that a lot sometimes when you look at certain alerts. It might not be that, but somebody launched a PowerShell command and it's trying to do this, and you do have to know where can I go to the code is base 64 thing, and you have to find out some good tools online. But
You say that, and I admit, and just so everybody knows, I don't code, not even a little bit, not even a tiny bit. I have literally turned down or been denied, I'll be very transparent with y'all, for teaching contracts because I don't know Python. You've got to figure out what you're willing to learn, what you can learn. I also don't speak Spanish and totally wish I did. I've taken Spanish twice. I've failed it. Uh, so every one of you is absolutely capable of it, but you've got to choose to bring an open mind to it. And I know that was one of my, like, I was overwhelmed when somebody told me to go learn Python. I was really pessimistic, and I was like, no, I don't need to learn that. I'm good. I've been doing what I've been doing forever. Horrible mindset. Don't make my mistake. Be open-minded to it. Read a book. Watch a video. It's not going to hurt you. You may not love it, but you're more prepared to be cross-functional with teams and speak to what your strengths and weaknesses are in interviews. And
yeah,
now I want to ask you about interviews. What are some tips and what are some prep steps that we should have in our tool bag when it comes to a job interview?
um, things is make sure you download the job description and you go through it and kind of understand what they may or may ask you, so you can be familiar with that. Um, Also, depending on the interview, and I hate this, but I'm gonna tell people this up front. You can tell what type of interview it may be from kind of the beginning. Like they're just trying to grill you on everything on your resume. 9 times out of 10, it might not be a good uh, interview, and it might not be a place you want to work for. But aside from all of that, um, some tips that I used to employ was that I would suggest everyone, whether we're in the pandemic now, but if it's virtual, I had like this little notebook I had, and before every interview, I probably would say who the company was and what's the date and the position. And while they were talking, or if I had questions, I'd be writing down notes and things like that. So for one, I could ask them things, something that they said, and two, when it comes to me sending a I have information that I could put in there that I know they said to me that'll show them that I was listening. But uh,
Absolutely, I love that.
yeah, uh, one of the steps is anything from the job description that you may be weak on, try to get a little bit more information on that. Another one people have always struggled with, and I used to struggle with this too because no one taught me this until when I was unemployed and I had actual like a career coach and they showed me this. I think a big mistake people a lot of times make is we stumble on your strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And a lot of times we immediately go to stuff that's really about us, and that's not necessarily that what they're asking us. Let's say, for instance, okay, prime example. Just now we're talking about programming, and so they gave you a question that said, "What is your strengths and weaknesses?" Sorry for talking so fast, but you would say, "Well, one of my weaknesses is not that proficient in Python, but then you can say, but I'm very strong in XYZ technology." So you
Yes.
basically just kept it straight to what the job is related to, and you're moving on. They don't want to hear, I get frustrated, and sometimes I'm hard on myself. I don't want to let a project go. That's not what they're trying to ask. And I was guilty of doing that in the past because I didn't know. I did not know that that question used to trip me up a lot. I used to hate when they asked me that.
I love that because that is really such an open-ended and sometimes intimidating question as like, well, what are your strengths and weaknesses or tell us about you? I literally just made a video the other day. I'll be sharing it here in about 2 or 3 weeks with y'all, but they're not looking for your life story or your dogs or your sisters. They're looking for in relation to the job description. What are you good at? What are you not as good at? And can we get you to be strong there? Now, by no means do I think you should feel like it's an impersonal uh, situation. They want to get to know you. They're definitely looking to get to know who you are, but they're not necessarily asking for a purely personal account, more so like a SWOT analysis, if y'all have ever heard of that, the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You need to do your own human SWOT analysis so that you are prepared and you're aware of what you're bringing to the table for an employer. And in a little bit, I'm going to touch on what you're expecting the employer to bring to the table for you because it is a mutual beneficial relationship.
Right, and that's good because um, one thing I did leave out about the interview tip was before you start talking about yourself, kind of treat this interview like a date. So if I was on a date with someone, I would say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you," or "Thank you for inviting me today." Something along those lines of telling them that so they do know that, hey, you're glad that they did pick you to interview out of hundreds of applicants, and then you seem grateful, and then they'll either say something back to you, and then y'all can go on. But if you just go in the interview and just you, I wouldn't call anybody a narcissist, but you never know how interviewers see that.
You got to think they're going through hundreds of resumes and applications. They're doing back-to-back interviews. You've got to stand out. And sometimes that's going to depend on soft skills. Everybody might have Python. Everybody might have an A plus, a Net plus, a CCNA. It might all be very, very similar as to what's on paper. But if you are the applicant that shook their hand or asked them about their day or had a personal touch and built a relationship, they are going to remember you above everybody else and they are going to feel better about you as an applicant in comparison to the other interviews that they went through. And that is invaluable. It's not just a checkbox or a mark or you got put to the top of the pile. You've literally created a human relationship and that's a huge part of being recruited to be an employee.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that.
Very,
Because
so
you
I
see the
want to touch
people.
on, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just had one more thing I say. A lot of times
Oh,
you see the people, if you've been in a type of environment at a job or something like that, the people that normally move up are the ones with the good soft skills because they're going to have to interact with more of the managers and the directors and the C-level execs. So those are skills that can be developed, but they do have to be
yeah.
worked on. But that is why the companies will sometimes go with a person that's possible less technical, but they have the soft skills because they're not going to be unbearable to work with.
Right. The fastest way to lose your job is a temper tantrum, and the fastest way to get a job is to build a relationship. Has nothing to do with if you're doing your job well or not, or if you bring the skills to the table. I shouldn't say nothing. It does have to do with that, but one of the things that's going to make somebody remember you, choose you, or not choose you is how they felt about you, and that's all soft skills. Uh-oh. Am I frozen?
No, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay, very cool. So let's talk about, so we touched on getting job applications in, touched on resume, definitely soft skills. How do you feel about leaving a company and searching for a job? Like when somebody makes a choice that this is the time for them to take the step up, or they're on to their next, like they're ready to take the next step to a new company or be promoted. What are some of the things that they can do to prepare themselves to be successful in that journey? Resume, LinkedIn, anything in that realm.
Um, Resume, self improvement. If we're going into like maybe find a new job, figure out, are you trying to get a job that's a step up above from where you're at? Does it like
Hmm.
involve, like you said, like right now I deal with, I'm not the manager, but I have level ones under me, so I have to have skills to where I'm not just coming at them when they're doing something wrong. I have to work up everything. And in order to be helped with that, guys that are watching, guys and girls, emotional intelligence, if you get a book on emotional intelligence, that will take you far in your career.
Yeah.
You probably haven't heard of EQ a lot, but trust me, it's going to be brought up more and more, especially um, if you have to start managing people. They might have to make you have to do classes on that. Um, at certain companies, if you go to your manager and say, hey, you want to go for a promotion or whatever, a lot of times HR has certain things that not check boxes, but things that you can do, so they'll be good with you going to a new role. Because I remember in our orientation 2 years ago, she's like, yeah, if you feel like you want to be a leader or you want to do this and that, contact HR so you can go take. I think they have like this leadership training and all this other stuff. But if it came to another role where it wasn't leadership, but let's say for instance, like right now I'm an analyst, but let's say I wanted to go be a Splunk engineer. Well, a Splunk engineer will nine times out of 10 have to have, I think it's the Splunk Fundamentals 2. And I think you have to have power user, and it may be one more cert. And
Okay.
that is kind of hard to do, but that is something once you figured out what you need to do that, once you get those down, then you could transition into a role like that. Or any type of role where you want to support the actual platform. Or one I thought about doing one time was incident response, which is a little weird because it's not a lot of certs or anything out there for incident response, or as far as even getting a lot of hands-on training with it. So incident response is a little tricky one. Sometimes a company will just, hopefully make a good choice on you and let you get your experience that way.
Okay.
But um, that and like I said, I'm just using LinkedIn as Wikipedia at this moment and Google because
Oh, yeah.
from when I was in college back in, I forgot when I first got LinkedIn, 2011, 2012 to now, it's like way more useful for me than it once was.
It's grown so much as a platform for sure. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about like what your specialty is specifically when you're working with somebody who's onboarding, asking you questions if they come to you as a client. What are like describe the services that you provide to those of us who reach out to you on LinkedIn? Like what's your ideal client? How can you help us?
So right now, what I'm currently offering right now is reviews, resumes, helping people transition into the IT or cybersecurity field. Um, let's see, did I leave anything out? Oh, and also coaching. So as far as if you book with me, we might set up uh, probably 4 weeks to 8 weeks maybe to check on you after the first couple of meetings. The first couple of meetings just to see how you're doing, how's your job search going, do you need any tips, any encouragement? Because I will also tell people if they come to me, I was like, listen, I've been there. I just found my flash drive where I had this Excel sheet from 2018 where I think I might upload it to LinkedIn, but no lie, I think I passed like 100 something jobs, and I have columns of who called me back and who brought me in for in-person interviews and all that. So I'm going to be very personable with you to let you guys know that I've been there before, so I don't want you guys to feel like I'm a super whiz kid and I've never got laid off and I'm just this guy. No, I plan to just try the way I was helped. And also, since I will be dealing with a niche of like IT cybersecurity, I think that makes it even better for you because I'm more familiar with what's in this industry, and I won't be trying to have you do things maybe I deem as being unnecessary or try to tell you to get straight to the point to help you get to your goal.
Okay. So I would say if any of y'all first and foremost have questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat. Hello, Make It in Tech. What's up? I love that you're here. Thank you for joining. So if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in. We will definitely discuss any questions that you may have. We are here talking about resume, job search tips. And I know we talked a little bit before about some of the strategies in keeping organized during a job search, which can be impossible. It feels like we're applying in all these different places. We are connecting with all these different people. I heard you just mention that you had it in an Excel sheet. Give us a little bit more of an idea of what that Excel sheet looked like. What are some of the columns or what's the data that you tracked?
So I had the date, the title of position. I had a column, um, interview, like I think I had like phone screen, yes or no. Uh, then I had one that said like in person, yes or no, then offer. So I had those columns and I was tracking it, and um, it got very long. I was looking at it, but what it also does, guys, is helps you remember what you applied to. Because before doing this, sometimes you apply to a job 3 months ago, and then they'll call you, say, "Hey, I'm calling you about such and such job," and you're like, "What job? What job did I apply to?" And then you go check your email. Oh, this job, and you totally forgot. And another
Yep.
tip that I probably should have mentioned early on, but when I was unemployed, I read whatever article I read, but it suggested that you apply to positions from like 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., like early in the morning, because sometimes people apply overnight and then you get pushed down because the people that are applying early in the morning. So, if possible, if you're unemployed, try to wake up early in the morning, apply to however many positions you see, maybe 4 or 5 positions, or even if it's more. Try to apply to them, and you should have a better. Uh, I just shotgun my resume, spray and pray. That's funny.
I was just going to ask, how do you feel about that strategy?
um, Shotgun my resume, spray and pray. Just applying everywhere, or is it like
Everywhere.
the LinkedIn apply or the Indeed apply?
Yeah, especially they have a lot of, so for those of you who haven't checked it out, Indeed and LinkedIn both have pretty much what's an easy apply type of option, where it's a single button, maybe two or three at the most, but you're not filling out the extensive applications. And you can honestly make it through a couple hundred of those buttons a day. Like you do an overall search, you filter for whatever's easy, and you just apply, 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 and you don't necessarily customize your resume, you're not customizing a cover letter, you're just sending it out there in the universe, and what comes back comes back. How do you feel about that strategy? I know there's pros and cons.
I actually used to prefer to hate. Listen, guys, I hate filling in the blanks applying to jobs. Uh, when they told me to have
What's your
the
work
like,
experience? It's in my resume.
right,
What's your
like why do
education
we have
experience?
that?
I attached my resume just like you asked. If you would just look, it's in there.
Definitely, and I know I like the LinkedIn apply, the Indeed apply. Those are pretty cool. Um, I always take it, a step further after I do that and try to be proactive so I can get my name in front of the recruiter's face.
Hmm.
17. Yeah. Let me see. Eugene
So
info.
he applied for 200 jobs and got 17 calls back. So I mean, the stats are there. I'm never mad at that approach, and I'll tell you that when I go after contracts, that's my initial approach. I'm going to take my resume and I'm going to frisbee it into a couple hundred people's inbox and let them figure out if they want to call me back or not. However, I am missing the opportunity to customize my keywords a little bit or to create that branded
Right.
connection that we talked about earlier. Like I didn't go through the mission and vision of the company, so I'm not sprinkling their keywords into my application. So do I get a heck of a lot done? Yes. Am I in front of a lot of people's eyes? Absolutely. But they may like what they initially saw and then felt like it was not personalized enough.
Right.
And that might be the thing that gets me out. And I really don't know because I've sent it out to so many people and I haven't made that human connection. So like I said, I've done that. I'm guilty of it. I'm a believer in it. But I also know it might be the thing that you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So how do you feel about that strategy? Do you think it's smart to just throw a couple hundred copies out, like apply rapidly? Or do you think it's worth the time and the investment to then customize your application per position?
Um, Both. Because, for example, with my resume, when I would apply to position, especially if I went through the actual company site, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
title of that position was, I would put that on my resume. So some of them said security analyst, some of them said incident response. So I had the title of whatever position I was applying to on my resume.
Okay.
But what I didn't know, but I know now, had I also went in and customized my summary to align a little bit more with their mission statement, that also would have helped some more as well.
The more keywords you can fit in there, the better, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Especially since the world is all about SEO now.
How do you feel about cover letters?
um, I'm not the biggest on cover letters because I actually need to go back and really understand the importance of a CV. Unless, like, I've had like generic ones I've had in the past, and then I've touched them up.
Mm-hmm.
But I know most of the time, sometimes they say it's optional. And when I know some jobs actually made me apply with a cover letter, but I didn't even get those jobs. So it's kind of like I need to do a little bit more research and look at the analytics on how much does you getting a job with adding a cover letter or not, like how much does that increase?
Right. So I know, like my personal experience with cover letters, I suck at writing. I am not a content creator in that regard. I had a job as a tech writer for about 2 months, one of my worst jobs. And it's really hard for me to then put myself on paper. And we did just have a question come in as well as, is hiring a resume writer a good idea? So I'm going to attack kind of both of those at once, and then I'm going to ask you for your feedback on that because I think it's a great question. As far as cover letters go, I do have a generic one. I'm not even impressed with my own cover letter, but some applications do require it, so you want to be prepared. So if they're going to ask you to submit a cover letter, and they normally don't tell you what should be in the cover letter, have some keyword written, like beautifully little qualified, here's me in a paragraph, here's 3 bullet points about me, thank you, look forward to speaking with you, thank you in advance for the time and consideration, and copy paste it wherever it needs to go. That's my approach.
Right.
You can absolutely, and if you're comfortable with writing, I encourage you to customize the crap out of it. Put in there why you're attracted to that position, something about the company that has really like hit home with you. I love the culture. When I read the description, it really resonated with me. My last position prepared me well for what's in the description of the job that I'm applying for now. Like you can really sugarcoat it, but I need you to understand the reality that recruiters have hundreds of applications, and the first 3 lines of your cover letter, if they aren't fire, I don't think the rest of it's going to get read. However, I'm not a recruiter, and every human is different, so you got to make your own choice. Is it worth the investment of time? That's where I'm at with cover letters. Resume writers, as far as hiring one, if you had asked me that 30 days ago, I would have told you I really don't think it's that big of a deal. And then I got a resume writer. Ooh, it's a big deal. I am a brand new fan of hiring a resume writer. The same thing with a cover letter, though. You've got to make sure you get in tune with somebody who understands your industry, understands your goals, and is going to be on the same wavelength as you for what you are going after. So if you can afford it, get a resume writer. Fiverr is going to have resume writers. LinkedIn has resume writers. If you're a C level or D level, so directors and CEOs, COOs, CTO, that's a 4-figure decision. You could drop $1,000 to $3,000 on a resume and cover letter writer. Um, so you've got to make that decision for you. So how do you feel, sir, about resume writers? Do you think that you would hire one? Have you hired one?
So my last resume was actually done by a resume writer, and like you said, it's I've showed it to people, and you would think like, I mean, my old job, to laid me off, paid for it, but I know for a fact that's anywhere from probably a $500 to $1,000 resume, just based on looks alone. Um, as for me, I would recommend it even now, of course, because yeah, I'm going to do resumes and I've been doing them for people. But I would recommend them. I would also recommend if you do get a resume writer, try to find one that's in the niche you're trying to go into, or someone who has a lot of experience writing for those. Because I've seen people go to resume writers that don't necessarily know how the market is, like in whatever career you're in, and they made it generic, kind of like maybe like an English teacher would make a resume, and that doesn't really work in every field. So I
Sorry
would
I'm
suggest.
moving so much. I'm looking for a comment. Y'all ignore me for a moment.
Oh, you're good. So yeah, I would recommend one. Like you said, they go for multiple prices. My site's almost finished, so I have my prices up pretty soon. But and I definitely believe in the value for it as well. I believe in giving you a resume that's going to help you sell your best self, but not oversell yourself.
So my own got 85. That's who asked the question, are you still hanging out with us in the chat? If so, what is your goal? What's your resume goal? So tell me a little bit about where you're at now, what type of job you're trying to get, and maybe we can make a recommendation right here, right now. All right. If anybody else has a question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat. We're here to support y'all. Definitely just having an open conversation about job searching. In my own experience, and I'm going to ask you for some advice on this, I might have a unique position. I was on one of my favorite contracts before COVID hit, and I was traveling 100% of the time. And when we couldn't travel anymore, we quickly ran out of being useful for the company who had contracted myself and a couple other team members. And with that, our contract was dissolved. Real quick, nice to see you. Maybe next year, probably not, type of deal, right? So I just went back to getting all my classes online, focusing on updates on all of our online courses, our virtual courses, doing a lot of one-on-one consulting, doing career coaching with some of y'all that are on the chat today. Love you. Thank you for the support. But for me, what would you suggest as a contractor, as a trainer, as somebody who's affected by COVID? What are the steps that you would tell me that I need to go do to make sure that I can get another contract signed or find a great W-2 position and move forward with my career journey?
Uh, it's tough because I know you got a lot of experience, and I don't know if it's too much advice I could actually give you. Um, I would say first, because I don't know, that's you're actually in a different market that I haven't dealt with. Dealt with
That's fair.
being the employee just doing like the regular job. Of course, I've had W-2 opportunities from contractors and stuff like that. As far as I think in
Hmm.
your position, you're your own entity and you have to go about it, I think, a little bit different, right? It's
But
actually,
let's pretend I'm a normal employee and I lost my job because COVID layoffs. So if I am kind of in that flow, are there any particular points that you would say, you need to go work on this, spend some time over here, and this is how I would approach the situation?
yeah, so bring you in and meet you, ask you about your goals and what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get the same position or similar positions, as far as we'll review your resume, look at your strengths and weaknesses, to see
Okay.
like, well, before that, I would also would have asked, had you had any interviews or anything since the layoff, because I think that'll be key.
Gotcha.
And if you say yes, and I'll say, okay, have you gotten any offers? We're gonna assume no, and then we're gonna say, I'm gonna ask, well, have you gotten any feedback from the recruiters or anybody you interview with? Because that's very key. A lot of times we don't know why we're not getting hired, and sometimes we need that feedback. So no
Okay.
feedback, cool. We don't know. Then what we would do after that, we would actually just work on a focused strategy. And like I think we mentioned earlier when I talk about all these terms and important things that's in the industry, I say make
Mm-hmm.
sure we're really good with those, and let's market ourselves on LinkedIn. Because I left this out because this is also how I started getting people to notice me. Engage on LinkedIn. I'm not just saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. Go to follow people that's already in a field you want to get in. Follow companies and start engaging on those posts as well, giving your thoughts, showing that you have a knowledge of, the material, the information that they're talking about, and it's going to stand out because I see a lot of people's stuff on LinkedIn. And I was like, man, they really know that AWS stuff. They know about Azure, and keep on doing that. It's going to drive that algorithm of traffic is going to drive stuff to you. I will also say, ask you how you're applying to jobs. For you guys
Okay.
that's on here, I have a video I did on a useful job tip for 2020. If you go to Techno Chatter, you should be able to find that video. It's a simple method that can help you at least get an interview. I can't say
Yeah,
again.
y'all definitely, if you haven't already, please go follow this man on Instagram. He's giving you the tips for free that you need to make a happy, headache-free job search. And from there, go check out his YouTube channel because the videos are priceless. Absolutely love the content. Just wanted to give you a quick shout out, so sorry for interrupting.
Are you
Keep
good?
going.
But yeah, once we go there, we'll go into reaching out to recruiters, seeing if that is helping us get interviews, and a lot of times it will. And then we'll go into interviewing. We need
Okay.
to record some of those. So if we record some of the interviews, we can see, what,
What
hey,
you're doing.
I'm letting on, and this, okay, let's fix this, and if you did good, except for um, all these things. And I can't say this thing will be a fast process because, guys, when I was unemployed from about late January 2018 all the way up to technically I didn't start working again until June 1st, 2018. I got my offer in May, but technically I didn't start working again until June. So everybody's process is different. So I would never tell somebody if you do this, you're going to have a job in 2 or 3 weeks. I know it doesn't always work like that, and sometimes the process has to work. And this is a big one, guys. Even though we don't see it while we're interviewing, a lot of times the company that we're meant to be with, we will find. The company I'm with now, great company, and I think it was worth those not working almost those 6 months to be with this company.
That's like a win story. That's a win-win right there because you had to have some patience and it took a lot of work. I know it was a frustrating process, but you made it. We do have a comment. We've got about 5-6 minutes left, so I want to address this, maybe get him some free consulting here for the moment. But the gentleman who asked a question earlier says he's in the process of studying and going to take his Security Plus next month. Rockstar. Love that. If you need help with that, come hang out on my YouTube channel. He said he recently learned Linux and he's currently learning Nmap and Wireshark. So good for you, lab every day. If y'all don't know what that's a reference to, get at me. I'll hook you up with that. But you should be practicing every day. You should be getting into the tools face first so that you're familiar, so you can bring those strengths to your interview. He says, I work in a data center in an entry-level position now, and he wants to transition into InfoSec. Man, we've got you as far as the class part. But, sir, tell me what he should be doing as far as resume, interview, LinkedIn. What are some tips that you can give him?
So he has. I want to presume that he possibly has these terms on his resume because Wireshark is always still a good one to have because. But I first and foremost, I'll ask. I know you want to go into the info role. Do you want to go to? Because that's
That
what
is a
I'm.
huge thing. As InfoSec is just as big of an umbrella as saying, well, I just want to go into IT, right? So definitely getting focused about what type of jobs in InfoSec, maybe choosing 2 to 3 specific positions that you want to target. And that way, a couple things, you should look at people on LinkedIn that are already in those positions, see what skill sets they have, see what their LinkedIn looks like. It's going to give you an idea as to what their resume looks like. Also, go look at the job descriptions. They're telling you, these companies are going to tell you point blank what they expect. And you do not need to feel the pressure to fulfill every single dot on every single job description. But if you're kind of like, well, what should I be studying? What do they expect of me as an applicant? just go look at job descriptions and look in your city, and then go look in a couple other huge cities as well, because you want to be marketable against not just your neighbors, but the country. So go look in Silicon Valley, go look in New York, Atlanta, Austin, Raleigh Triangle Park, so RTP, Research Triangle Park. But get prepared. Go arm yourself with the data you need to be successful there.
Yeah. So to piggyback on that, um, I would also add MF is a good one. It's a very good one.
Nmap's a good one.
Wireshark definitely. I don't know if you're using this site, but I use it from time to time when I'm getting rusty on Wireshark, which I need to start back doing it after I finish studying. I want to say it's malwaretrafficanalysis.com. I think that's the site. And they have all different type of PCAPs from like very easy to super hard to where it'll help you, because even though it's hard to get access on some SIM environment, working through Wireshark looking at PCAPs is just about similar to triaging and alert, because you have to know what the scenario, what's going on, and the scenario is going to help you figure out what filter you need to type in Wireshark to figure out the information you need to use. If you possibly can, there are some open SIM tools. I think it's, what is this? Is it the Elk Stack? They have, I think it's, I always want to call this Alienware, but I want to say it's Alien Bot. I want to say Alien Bot is an open source too. You can download that. A lot of people on their resume, but they don't really actively use it. But Kali Linux and Security Onion, if you got time or space, download those. Look up on YouTube and Google some exercise you can do. So when you do go in there and interview, you may not have the typical experience, but you definitely have skills. I'm pretty sure in the data center, there's things people have to adhere to when they come into the data center and check out everything in the data center that's security related that you probably didn't really think about. Because that's very, like, if someone has unauthorized access to that data center that they're not supposed to, a bad thing could happen in their environment. So you actually been keeping up with security protocols. So once we fix your resume to show it that's security oriented, you should be fine.
I love it. So for those of you who want more information, maybe you want to jump into our DMs and ask for some personal consultations, some sessions, some guidance, we're here for you. If you just have a couple quick questions, we'll definitely schedule some time. If you want to enroll in a full-blown career progress and guided program that either one of us have, jump in. We're here for you. The cool thing is that both of us, as well as a couple other people that I've had guests here and a couple more that are coming up, we all have unique experiences in how we got into tech, and we're here to share them with you. So your experience is going to be unique. Ours has been unique, and we're here to help. What's great is that I know that there are lots of programs out there and that tie in all of the things that we talked about today. So job searching techniques, methodologies, strategies, resume writing, cover letter writing, what your LinkedIn should look like, how to network with people, and we've got the expertise to share that with you. So if you want to book a session with myself, with Mr. Davis, let us know. Contact us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, as well as subscribe on YouTube, and we're here to make it happen. Any last words from you?
Not same things. I'll echo your sentiments. My own guide. If you want to talk more, like you said, you can hit me in the DMs and I'll respond, or LinkedIn, or anybody else. My LinkedIn, I don't know if I have it on my thing, but if you go on my YouTube channel, it's in all my descriptions.
Very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you joining us here. Instagram is yelling at me that we have less than 60 seconds, so I'm going to jump off. But y'all know how to get into our DMs, so don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't ask me too much, though, because we don't work for free. So sign up for programs. Let us know how we can support you, how we can help you, and make sure that you know what you want so that we can help you get there. That's the best advice I could offer to anyone. Have a good one, y'all.
All right, guys.